Ubisoft's The Division is getting its sequel this March, marking a new era to one of the most unique online shooter franchises we've seen in the past years. Sure, the first game wasn't as balanced and polished as players had hoped, but that's where The Division 2 comes in. Even though the new game doesn't offer any user interface and graphics changes, gameplay now looks much more consistent and fair. The first example of this is how dark zones will work out in the new game. There are a couple of meaningful changes coming to this feature, so let us give you the details before you decide whether or not to buy it. Before we start, let us remind you to subscribe to Pixel Enemy, hit the bell button to get notified every time something new gets uploaded. Today, we're going over everything we know about dark zones in The Division 2. For starters, The Division 2 now has 3 different dark zones, each one with its own ecosystem filled with different challenges, landmarks, and playstyle. All of them will be both player versus player and player versus environment though, much like the first game. Dark Zone East, for example, is the biggest one of the 3, focusing on long-range combat and cover to stay alive. Dark Zone West is a mid-range map, with gameplay here being the most versatile, while Dark Zone South is the smallest one and is all about close-quarter combat. All 3 dark zones will be normalized to your level, something that will encourage mid-game players to join in the fun too. However, even with 3 dark zones in the map, don't expect them to be huge like the ones in the first game. All 3 dark zones in The Division 2 are smaller by at least a third of the original dark zone map, yet they are now organized in such a way that you're bound to have much more fun when entering, with more landmarks to clear, crates to unlock, and challenges to overcome. Before you enter any of the 3 dark zones for the first time, you'll be introduced to an intro mission that you can tackle alone or in a party, without the interference of other players within the instance. After you finish it, you can enter the classic dark zone, which now includes 12 players per instance. With the intro missions, you'll find more about the area and how it was used during the outbreak. This will add plot value to an otherwise purely gameplay-focused segment of The Division. Within the Dark Zone now, players will be given statuses whenever they engage fights with others. The first one is the Rogue status, which is identified by a gray skull and means that the player tagged has engaged another agent with non-lethal means. Disavowed rogues will be identified with a red skull, and those are players that have attacked in a violent manner. And last but not least, we have the Manhunt status, with a tag of a yellow skull, which is a high priority target similar to The Division 1. When you have a rogue status on your head, then you'll also have a few perks that other players don't. For instance, you'll be able to pick locks on crates, steal loot from other players while they're extracting it, and more. As useful as that sounds, it comes with great danger inside the zone, since the bounty on your head is rising, so make sure you are prepared for what's to come. There's a new type of dark zone, though, that you can enter and not worry about statuses: the occupied dark zone. When one of the existing dark zones is marked as occupied, all statuses will be hidden, friendly fire will be switched on, and your skills and build will have to save the day. Additionally, there will be no normalization on this type of maps, so be ready for intense endgame fights. Let's take a quick look on item looting. As you already know, the best loot in The Division can be obtained in the dark zones. However, the new game includes a trick on that matter. While lower tier items will instantly be stored in your inventory, there will be others that will be marked as toxic. Those items will have to be extracted and used after you leave the area, so that they can be decontaminated. A cool feature if you ask us, and a good reason for rogue players to come marching in and steal your loot before you manage to extract it. Last but not least, sentry turrets are now guarding the entry points, making easier for newcomers to stay alive from the hands of predatory rogue players. We knew that this was a problem in The Division 1, and it seems like we'll have a much easier way around now. This is pretty much everything Ubisoft announced about dark zones in The Division 2. Are you buying The Division 2? What other things would you change in the dark zones if you had the chance? Let us know in the comments below. The Division 2 releases on March 15th for Xbox One, PlayStation 4, and Windows. On PC, the game will be available through the Epic Store and Uplay, with Steam missing this release at least for now. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you next time.